Okay, so welcome to your first set of notes. We're going to be starting Unit 2. We're going to be focusing on evidence. And 2.1 is going to be types of evidence. We're going to talk about some basics, and then we're also going to talk about testimonial evidence specifically. So we'll start by talking about Lecard's exchange principle. He was some French guy, Edmond Lecard. He came up with the basic concept that whenever two objects come in contact, there's always a transfer of material. So what he referenced is this was basically extrapolated to forensics. For example, when you have a bat come in contact with a victim, vehicle and a victim, there's always going to be a transfer of material. Not only the obvious organic material from the victim to the vehicle or the bat, but there's also going to be a transfer of material from the weapon, from the vehicle, to the victim as well. Now, one of the things that's stated in Lecard's principle is that that transfer, we can't always detect it. We may not have the technology, it may deteriorate in time before you're able to get there and collect a specimen or evidence, but there is always going to be some sort of physical transfer when two objects come in contact. So do remember this guy, Edmond Lecard, and his exchange principle. All right. So classification of evidence by nature. We basically break evidence up into four major types, and it really comes down to the type of evidence and the grouping. So biological evidence is going to be exactly what you would anticipate. Either biological organisms themselves or parts, waste, pieces of those organisms. Insects, saliva, body fluids, tissues from the victim or anything else like that. So those are all going to be by nature. Fungal evidence is fungus. Botanical means plant matter. All right. Chemical is the second one. Chemical evidence is going to be chemically derived things. Paint, soil, gunpowder, paper, ink, cosmetics like that. Think of it as, for the most part, it's going to be synthetic, non-living, non-organic things, and that could be a note to make. This is going to be non-organic material, and if you understand, basically what organic means, which is living material, you'll be able to keep this one straight. Physical evidence is going to be is going to be usually the when objects come in contact and how that manipulates a surface or an object. Fingerprints, obviously, when two objects come in contact, when you touch a surface, if you have blood on your hand or just oils. Impression evidence, we're going to do, hopefully do a little bit of work on impression evidence, shoe prints and the like. And then here, this is a study of ballistics, bullet analysis, firearms, things like that. That's right here. This is a really tough field to do. We'll do a little bit of work on this one, hopefully. But that's ballistics. So that's physical evidence. Again, the difference between physical evidence and the previous two is those are physical evidence is the result of two objects coming in contact with one another and how one object is altered or manipulated. There we go. All right. So the last is going to be miscellaneous. This is just other pieces of evidence that don't fall into one of those prior three categories. Voice analysis, this is a polygraph or stress evaluation, vehicle identification, things like that. We're going to fall into the miscellaneous category. All right, when we talk about evidence, we talk about two general types of evidence, direct versus indirect evidence. Direct evidence is something that this is going to be eyewitness evidence, a confession from the suspect. This does helps establish a fact, doesn't make any inferences, but we will come back to this in just a moment. There's a lot of variability that comes with eyewitness accounts that put them in question. Okay, so we don't actually rely on eyewitness accounts. Indirect evidence. Indirect evidence is going to be evidence that implies a fact. This is also called circumstantial evidence. This evidence right here is going to also be called physical evidence. Okay. And this is the evidence that a forensics investigator is really responsible for looking at. This is any object or material that's relevant in a crime, so we got a good definition right here, remember that. Hair, fiber, fingerprints, those things that we're going to actually process in this class. Direct evidence, this is testimonial evidence. Okay, this is eyewitness testimonies. Again, the witness, the suspect, the criminal, whatever, stating their case, making a statement under oath. Again, these are not always reliable. The reason that eyewitness testimonies are not reliable, some factors, the nature of the offense, the situation which the crime was observed, things like, was it foggy out? If it was, if it was raining, if it was nighttime, that's going to obviously cause a big difference in eyewitness testimonies. Characteristics of the witness themselves. Was the witness drunk? That's obviously going to affect what they recall. Is the individual old? Are they young? Their own lifestyle, their if they have had a lot of exposure to firearms, they may be able to give you a better testimony as opposed to someone who has never seen a firearm in their life. And then the manner in which the information is retrieved. Some other factors, if there are relationships. This one is interesting. The length of time between the offense and the identification. This is a huge factor and one that I'm just recently discovering. I'll be testifying in court for something that I witnessed, and I will be giving my testimony. The event occurred over 2.5 years ago, so obviously my memory of that is going to be a little sketchy. Any prior identification or failure to identify, and then if there's anybody else there at the crime scene. All right. Eyewitness testimonies. A police composite may be developed from the eyewitness testimony. Perception, we're going to do a little bit of facial recognition. Perception is reality. That's an important quote. Perception, reality isn't reality. What you perceive is reality. Okay, and so that is ultimately what we're getting. We're not getting the absolute truth. We're getting someone's perception of it, and that makes a big difference. Keep doing that. I'll get there. All right, last thing is probative value. I just want you to know about probative value. Just means the ability of evidence to prove something that is material or important to a crime. A couple examples. An apple. Think about what type of probative value you might get from this. You're thinking right now. That's what's happening. All right, example 2. What type of probative evidence might you, or probative value might you get from this piece of evidence? Still thinking. Quick review, just to remember, what does probative value mean? It means the ability of evidence to prove something that is material or important to a crime. All right, that's all we got for today. A little bit long lecture. We'll keep them shorter in the future. Thanks for watching.